Hi, I'm Andrea Anthony, and this is Eat, Drink, and Bake with Andrea. You know, I'm always trying to fit in more vegetables and beans in my diet. They're so healthy, they're full of fiber, vitamins and minerals, and today's recipes do just that. So let's talk about what we're doing today. We're starting off with a white bean hummus with toasted pita, and then we move on to Vietnamese spring rolls with a peanut sauce, and after that, we're doing a veggie burger with a homemade honey mustard. So let's get started. So let's talk about our ingredients. We're starting with our white beans, cannelloni beans, and you'll see what I did was I drained the juice from the can. We're gonna reserve that on the side in case we need it for consistency. So we have our white beans, we have garlic, a little bit of cumin, salt of course, and the body of it, which is the tahini sauce. And I love this tahini in particular. I always look for a tahini that's nice and smooth. Lemon juice adds a little kick to it, a little bite. And I've just put a couple of drops of Tabasco. That is optional. So if you don't like the heat, you don't have to put that in. And just a little bit of sesame oil, toasted sesame oil, gives it a kick as well. This is for garnish. Looks really nice with some chopped parsley and a little bit of paprika on top. So we'll save that until the end. Okay, very simple. We're just going to use our food processor. Okay, so we're adding our nice and smooth tahini sauce. And we have our freshly squeezed lemon juice. Of course, the garlic. Now the garlic you don't have to mince. You can really just cut it, a rough cut on that because, you know, it's in our food processor. And our toasted sesame oil. This is also a flavoring part of the dish, which is some cumin, ground cumin. And as I said, I'm just adding just a touch of Tabasco. And you can always adjust that at the end or leave it out, as we said. Okay, so let's give it a pulse to start. Now we're just gonna let her rip. Now let me point out that if you like more of a texture, then you don't have to, you can stop it after a few pulses and you'll have something that looks like this. But if you like a smoother consistency, then just let it run a little bit longer. Okay, and I kind of like this to be on the smoother consistency. Okay, so you can see that this is more creamy. And that's really it. And the thing to remember is once it's been in the refrigerator, it does tend to get a little bit more stiff. So that's something you want to keep in mind. You can take it out, leave it at room temperature, it will soften a bit. So that's our dish. And we're just going to get a little bit of parsley for color and contrast, and a little bit of paprika. And that's it, homemade hummus. So let's talk a little bit about the pita bread. You want to do this at the last minute, right before you're ready to serve. So we're going to just take pita, and by the way, if you want to add a little fiber, you know, you can get whole grain pita. So that's kind of nice if you'd like to add a little extra healthiness to your dish. So we're just going to cut them in triangles like this. We have our oven that's been preheating at 400 degrees. And we're going to pop those in. The residual juice from the beans. Depending upon the brand you use, sometimes your hummus will be a little drier than others, so we talked about reserving it. So if you found that your hummus was a little bit too thick after you've blended it, that's when you would use this. And you know, you can always keep it in the refrigerator as well. So as we said, if it gets too thick in the refrigerator, you'll have a little extra on the side. This or water, whatever you prefer, both work. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this in the oven, 400 degrees for about 7 to 10 minutes until they crisp up. So our next dish, Vietnamese Spring Rolls. And the reason we call them Vietnamese Spring Rolls is because the rice paper, which we use in the recipe, is raw, they're not fried. So I'm gonna show you how to make those in a little while, but we need these for the recipe. The body of this recipe is, as you see it here, vegetables. And you can be so versatile with the kinds of vegetables you use. Today, we're using carrots, celery, zucchini, scallions. We have 2 types of peppers, red and yellow. We're also putting some cilantro in, some sprouts, and we have avocado slices. You can really go with what you like, but what I will tell you about this is you need to have julienne slices, and you'll see why when we roll them up. Now, along with this recipe goes an incredible peanut sauce, and we're starting with peanut butter. And to that, we're adding a little bit of water for consistency. We have garlic, we have some soy sauce, we have toasted sesame oil, rice vinegar, a little bit of sriracha, and salt. So it's very, very simple ingredients, healthy ingredients, beautiful colors, and it just works so nicely together. So what goes great with a healthy recipe is a wine that suits a healthy lifestyle and healthy food choices. So today I have a special guest. His name is Tom Beaton from Fitvine Wines. Well, I discovered this wine about 4 years ago, and I ordered it online, and it was fabulous. Because again, you know, I'm really into healthy things, but especially with wine, it's got to taste good, and this is a great product. So Tom's going to talk today, you know, give us a little history on how your company came to be, because I find it so interesting the way it started. And when I knew the company, there were only a few products, and now I've watched you grow. So it's very exciting. Tell us a little bit about the background.
Well, we're psyched to be here, Andrea. We started about 5 years ago. We started with a Cabernet and a Chardonnay. And the reason why Mark, my business partner, and I started the company is we wanted a wine that complemented our active lifestyle and the healthier choices we were making with food. So I have a good friend out in Lodi, California, who's been a winemaker for years. His name's Alan Lombardi. And I went to Alan and I said, I want to create a product that works for me. And I don't know if there's a market for it out there, but if nothing else, Mark and I will drink all of it. We started online only, and we didn't know if anyone would buy it. We sort of did a little bit of advertising on Facebook and Instagram. Things took off.
And you're in thousands of stores.
We're all over the United States. We're sold in all 50 states right now. Whole Foods, Albertsons, Kroger, Stop and Shop, Shaw's, so really everywhere.
So we're going to taste it a little later.
All right, great.
But why don't you help me with my recipe? I would love to have you help me. But first we're going to start with our peanut sauce. We are using very smooth peanut butter. I use smooth because I find that chunky peanut butter has a different consistency. And to that, we're going to add a little bit of water. Now, I'm not going to add it all.
Does that need to be heated at all, or?
You know what? It should be warm or slightly hot. And we're adding our soy sauce. We have our toasted sesame oil, which adds a really nice level of flavor. And we use rice vinegar. Now, a little bit of sriracha, because we need a little heat in this recipe. And we have some kosher salt, and then we're going to add in our garlic. So now we're just going to mix it up. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at. Just give it a good mix. Nice to do it first, because what I find is if you let it sit, the flavors really merge. So I'm going to finish this up. We're going to clean up a little bit, and then we're going to move on to assembling our spring rolls. So let's talk a little bit about assembling the Vietnamese spring rolls. Very important to portion out what's going in the spring roll, because if you have your separate piles of cut up vegetables, you're going to find that some may have too many, some may not have enough, and when you get to the end, you may not have enough at all. So what I like to do is I like to portion them all out so we know exactly what's going in each one. They're equal little bunches here. Now, I also like to put a little bit of avocado in, and also some sprouts and cilantro. Now, if you're not a cilantro lover, you can use basil, you can use fresh parsley, whatever you like. You know, it's very versatile. Now, I love this little device because this gets right in the skin of an avocado and takes it right out. So it's kind of a cool little thing. All right, so with this, I'm just gonna cut some pieces here. Actually, I'm gonna keep it off to the side because we're gonna have to work in this space. So these are alfalfa sprouts, but there's all kinds of sprouts out there that are healthy, so you can choose whatever you like. So, okay. Now, rice paper. It can be a little touchy to work with, which you'll find out. I bet you do great though. But what's important is, see that one's a little rip? We're gonna put that aside. Okay, and you can see like the humidity in the room kind of makes them, you know, kind of move around and get curled up, but that's okay. You need some hot water. Now, obviously not too hot because we don't want to burn our hands, but it's been hot enough. So you're just gonna use your fingers to sort of dip it in the water, okay? And what I'll do is I'll let the excess drip off. Okay, let's see how I do, okay? Okay, the pressure's on. So it's on the board, okay? So we're gonna take our first bunch. Now, it's important where you place it, okay, because we're gonna roll it. So we're gonna put it sort of just about the middle, okay? And then we start our assembly. I'm gonna put the avocado on top of that, and then some sprouts.
Cilantro.
And cilantro. First step, we're gonna take the end,
Okay.
and we're moving it over the middle of our product, the middle of the vegetables.
Got it.
Then we're just tucking that. Okay, so when we get to this part, we folded both sides over, right? Now you have this excess. You're just gonna give that a little bit of a fold, and then you're gonna roll.
Oh, yours looks good.
Yours is gonna look fine. Okay, so that's what it comes out like. So we're gonna put that over there. You want me to do one more? I'll do one more, and then
great.
you're on.
Thank you.
Okay. What kinds of wines do you think would go well with this dish?
I like a white wine with vegetables. I think it's great with a, you know, a crisp dish that, you know, sort of tastes nice and light. So we make a Fitvine Chardonnay and a Fitvine Pinot Grigio. Also, our Fitvine Rosé also could be a great fit with the spring roll dish.
So you think any one of those wines would go well?
I really do.
So it's really just a question of taste. They all sort of go, but depending upon what you like, I know some people actually love rosé. Rosé's become a big thing. Do you find that?
Rosé is big in the summer, and it's a big brunch wine. So it's gotten really big in the last few years.
And you know, this is a dish that you can really use for brunch. You can have a whole spread out, and I think this is a nice dish that you can work in. So the rosé would actually really work nicely with a dish like this.
Yes.
Well, the first wine I tried from your company was the Chardonnay.
Yes.
And I love it. Can you just explain the Chardonnay? I know some of them are oaky, some of them are not.
Yep.
How would you explain your Chardonnay?
So ours is definitely not oaky, nor is it buttery. We do our extended fermentation, and we do it in stainless steel. So it's more crisp. It's kind of light and crisp, and it's got hints of pear to the, you know, and a really nice mouthfeel, and people love it. People that don't love that oaky, buttery Chardonnay tend to really like our Chardonnay.
So it seems like it sort of spans across the board. Not everybody likes the oaky flavor, like you say.
Yes.
And I think it's nice to have a wine that appeals to kind of both people, really, that it seems to be, I liked it. And I tend to like the oakier wines, but I liked yours. I felt it was a great wine, and it really does go with so many dishes. I'm excited about this wine.
Okay, great. Well, awesome.
I really am.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna dip this for you. All right.
Okay.
So you're gonna start.
Let's see how well I paid attention.
Let's see how well you do. And while you're doing this, I'd like to hear more about the wines that we don't have here.
Okay,
because your wines have expanded. If I'm not mistaken, there's 9 varieties.
There are. We also make our number one wine, selling wine, is our Cabernet, which is we've had since the beginning, and people really, really love that.
So here you go. Let's get started.
All right, here we go.
And now you can add a little bit of sprouts.
Okay. What about the avocado? Should I do
Yep.
that?
Yeah, you can do that first or second. I think I did it
here.
first. So.
Okay.
And then a little bit of cilantro.
Okay. Is that enough?
Yep. That's good. So now you're going to roll this right over the top. Okay. That's all right.
All right.
So you can, if that happens, and you know, it takes a while to get the knack of this dish. If that happens, pull it back to you a little bit, and now you can put your sides over. So we're gonna go like this, and you're gonna move the sides over like that.
All right.
Fold that a little bit, and now just roll it. Ah, that's perfect.
Yes.
A perfect Vietnamese roll.
Okay.
So I'm gonna finish rolling the rest of these, and then for the best part, we're gonna come back and we're gonna crack open a bottle.
Yeah.
And we're gonna taste it.
All right.
I'll be right back. So I've finished rolling our Vietnamese spring rolls, and now we're ready for the best part, which is to taste the wine.
Yeah, here we go.
I've been looking forward to this
Me
part.
too. I'm ready. All right. Cheers.
Well, cheers.
All right.
Oh my God, that is just, it is
Nice.
so good, so good. What do you think? Let me point something out about this recipe. You can really, it's extremely versatile. You can use any vegetables you like, anything that you feel works well together for you, works in this recipe, and you can also add shrimp. You would cook your shrimp first, and you can add the shrimp in there as well, and it just works well with the vegetables. It's a great dish, it's light. So what do you think?
I love it. It's fantastic.
Wonderful. Okay, well, let's toast to that.
Cheers.
Great. Well, stay tuned. More recipes to come. And Tom, thanks for being on the show.
It's
You
been
were
my
great.
pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back. So now for the main course, and that's our veggie burgers. Let me talk to you about our ingredients. We have lentils, brown lentils. Now, I've made them with this medley of lentils, and you know, the color's really nice when you start out, and I thought it'd be really interesting, but truth being said, once they're cooked, they don't look that different. These are actually cooked lentils, and I'm gonna show you the secret to cooking them just right. So we start out with our raw lentils, and we have our kale, chopped kale, and we have oat flour, and the secret to the recipe, why it doesn't fall apart, is because we're using chia and flaxseed. And when we add a little bit of water to that, which is in the recipe, it binds it together. You don't need an egg, which makes this a vegan veggie burger. So that appeals to not only vegetarians, but vegans as well. We have some red pepper and yellow pepper, and we have red onion, which adds a really nice color to the dish. Now the flavoring, we have some sesame oil, we have cumin, salt and pepper, of course, garlic, and cilantro, and here's a little bit of water. Now, again, with the cilantro, you know, cilantro is one of those funny things where some people love it and some people don't. So again, if you're not a cilantro lover, you can use basil. I've also made with them with parsley. So either works, but for this recipe, we're using fresh cilantro. Then we have a honey mustard that goes really great with this dish. And it's so simple and delicious. It's got the brown sugar, Dijon mustard, honey, and apple cider vinegar. And that's it. 4 simple ingredients, and it's absolutely delicious and really complements the dish. Before we assemble our burgers, I want to show you the secret of cooking the lentils for this recipe. Just a little trick that makes it come out perfect every time. So we're going to go over to the stove and we'll start the lentils going. So what we're going to do is we have 4 cups of water. You need double the amount of water that you have to your lentils. So we're starting with 2 cups of lentils and 4 cups of water, a quart. You're going to combine them, give them a mix. I have my flame on. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring this to a rapid boil. You're going to stir it again, and then you're going to reduce the heat to a simmer and let them cook for about 10 minutes or so. Then you shut the heat off. We put the cover on and we let them sit for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and it absorbs whatever water is in there that hasn't absorbed, and it's perfect. So we'll start that going, and then we'll move back and we'll start our ingredients. So we're back at our station here, and we're going to start the patties. So first, we have our lentils, which cooked for 10 minutes. We let them sit, and they're cool. It's always easier to deal with them when they're cool, so that's good. And here's our kale. And again, just a rough chop on that. Doesn't have to be chopped finely because we are processing. Let's put our peppers in next. Let's put our cilantro in. Again, a rough chop on that as well. You don't have to spend a lot of time chopping things too finely because they're just going in the blender. And we have our red onions. We have some oat flour we're adding, okay, which adds, you know, a binding agent to the recipe. and our chia and flax. And now for all of our flavorings. Here's our water. Now this is really important because what happens is, and you don't need that much, when you put that little bit of water in there combined with the moisture of your vegetables, it makes the flax and the chia sort of expand, and it almost becomes like a gel-like consistency. If you've ever mixed chia with a liquid, or flax for that matter, there's a gummy consistency that happens, and that's what keeps the burger together. That's been my biggest problem with burgers, and I didn't want to use an egg in this, so it's really a nice part of the recipe, because I have vegans in my family, and they won't eat the burger if there's eggs in there, so it kind of makes it appealing to everybody. Here's our cumin, and we have our sesame oil, toasted, just a little, and we have our fresh ginger. Okay. So all of our ingredients are in the food processor, and we're just going to get that top on. I just started pulsing a little bit. The pulse kind of mixes everything together without pulverizing it yet. So you just want to give it a little pulse to mix your ingredients evenly, and you can see that happening now. Okay, now what I will do, and you can see here, there is sort of a thick consistency. I want to give that another stir, because what tends to happen is some of the ingredients that haven't completely mixed in go to the sides of the bowl. And that's what your mixture should look like. Okay, you can see it's nice and thick, holding together well. And I'll show you this. It's pliable. It's not sticky. It doesn't stick to your hands. So it works really nicely. So I'm going to get this in a bowl and get set up to make our patties. We'll be right back. So here we have our mixture, and I like to use a scoop. It's easy to do that. Sort of easy to get it out, an ice cream scoop if you have one. If not, you can use a spoon. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to portion them out so that they all have equal amounts, and that means they'll cook evenly. You want to make sure your edges are round. Now that's one of the things about the burger not falling apart. You don't want jagged edges, because as they cook, they will tend to break if the edges are jagged. The other thing is, you don't want them too thick like a meatball, because if you had them like this, they're not going to cook all the way through, and they could be pasty on the inside. So this particular recipe needs to be flattened out, these burgers. And you can kind of see the thickness. That's good. I mean, about a regular burger size. Okay, it looks like we're good to go. So I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then we're going to move over to the stove, and we'll get them cooking. So let's add a little bit of olive oil to our pan. You want to use a pan big enough that you can fit all 6 of them. If not, you can do them in batches. Now you want the pan to be hot, not too hot where it's going to smoke. I'm using olive oil, but you can use avocado oil if you like that. Now the thing is, yes, a test. To make sure it's ready, what you don't want to do is put this in the pan before the oil's hot, or it will just absorb it into the product. So you hear that? A little sizzle, we know it's ready. A little test on that. Now when I have them in there, I like to give it a little shake like that, because what happened was they went on and they seared a little bit, and then move them around so that they don't stick to the pan. So we're going to just let these saute. I would say about 3 minutes on either side. You want them to be nice and crisp on the outside, tender on the inside. You don't want to overcook them, but you don't want them mushy. So you need a crusty type of a finish on that. Also keep an eye on your flame. This is a medium-high flame. This isn't the recipe you want to walk away from too soon, because you sort of have to keep your eyes on how it's cooking. And I adjust my flame as I go, but right now we're looking good. So let's let that go for about 3 minutes or so, and then we'll come back. Okay, so you can see here we talked about adding more olive oil. The pan is getting a little dry, so we're going to add a little bit more olive oil. Now you see how it's starting to smoke? That tells me the flame's too high. I'm going to move that off a little bit. And we're lowering our flame. And this is what I mean about this recipe. You sort of have to keep an eye on it. Okay, so I'm going to take a little peek at the bottom, and we're not quite there yet. So if you're not a vegetarian, I promise you, you will like these burgers. I am not, but I do like healthy food. And I will tell you that I really, really do enjoy this burger. So I hope you give it a try because it's absolutely wonderful, especially with the honey mustard we're gonna make in a few minutes. So we're starting to flip our burgers now. You see that nice brown bottom? That is what we are looking for. Okay, coming around the other end, rounding our burgers off. And now we're gonna check the flame once again. Okay, let's give it another 3 minutes and then we're gonna wrap it up. So our burgers have been cooking and they are looking good. So we're gonna start to plate these and then I will meet you over at the center island and we're gonna go on to the next step. We're ready for our sauce, which is our honey mustard, with our simple 4 ingredients. Brown sugar, and by the way, that's dark brown sugar, and Dijon mustard, our honey, and some apple cider vinegar. And that's it. We're gonna mix that together. And the thing about this recipe is it doesn't really have to sit long. So you can kind of do this toward the end and it works out just fine. If you put it in your refrigerator the next day, you're gonna find that it's a lot more solid, which is perfectly good. Okay, so there you go, honey mustard. So here we have it, our vegetarian burger made with kale and lentils and all kinds of vegetables. And we have our rolls, which are brioche rolls, and they go just perfectly. And here's our presentation. So we've added tomatoes, sprouts, some avocado, which work really well, some red onion for color, a little bit of extra flavor. But you can put anything you like, lettuce and tomato. You can even use cheese, or you can use vegan cheese to make it a real vegan dish. So it's really wonderful. And some apples on the side, a pickle, and of course our honey mustard. So it's a great dish, it's versatile, whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian, or you're just trying to add some healthy grains, beans, vegetables, etc. into your diet. It's just wonderful, and I hope you enjoy it. Try this recipe. So here we have it, our vegetarian meal. We started with our white bean hummus with toasted pita. We have our Vietnamese spring rolls with a homemade peanut sauce, and we have our vegetarian burger with a honey mustard and all kinds of great vegetables on top and avocado. It's a great meal for both vegans, vegetarians, and for those people that are just trying to eat healthy. So thank you for watching Eat, Drink, and Bake with Andrea. Please follow me on social media at Eat, Drink, and Bake. And for more information about my spice line, you can visit my website, www.eatdrinkandbake.com. And remember, it's all about great food, step-by-step recipes, and sharing times with friends and family. See you next time.